Hi, welcome to our show. I'm Sylvia Yu. I am so honored to introduce my guest today. Alice Mong is the president of the Asia Society Hong Kong Center. Alice is a remarkable leader with a proven track record of expanding and launching associations and nonprofits dedicated to fostering Chinese and American business and cultural exchange. She firmly believes that mutual respect and understanding between cultures are key to our global future. Her work is a testament to this conviction and inspires all who share her vision. Alice, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Yeah, how are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I am doing really well, and this is off to a great start of the Year of the Dragon, and I'm doing. I think this is going to be a great year, so I'm doing fine. And great Chinese New Year holiday. Rested, so now we're off to a fantastic start here at Asia Society Hong Kong.
Amazing, amazing. And yeah, no, so what inspired you to pursue a career in being a bridge between China and America?
What inspired me has been, I have to say, my parents. I am an immigrant. I was born in Taiwan, and my parents and my siblings, I have a younger brother and younger sister, we moved to the States in the early 70s. In fact, it was a year after Nixon's trip to China. And so we packed up from Taiwan and immigrated to the States. So I say my parents is because in this last 50 some years, seeing them as first generation immigrant, they were in the restaurant business, and how hard they work. And I lost my father about 2 years ago, and just
Sorry
now
about that.
looking back, oh, he's just somebody that I miss every day. But it's his inspiration, what he really saw for us as kids, really studying hard. In Taiwan back then, it was not the most, it was still under martial law, and Taiwan was a very different Taiwan than it is today. So our immigrating to the United States, and we were part of that first wave of immigrants coming from Asia, and it was not just Taiwan, but I remember growing up with Korean Americans, Afghani Americans, other immigrants. So they are the one that I think inspires me. And because I finished fourth grade in Taiwan, and arriving in the States where there was, not speaking a word of English, but having teachers also
Mm.
inspire me, the
Wow.
way they believed in us. And so that's how, to this day, I find that bridging. I think there's a reason we immigrated to the States. I didn't understand it then, and now I think at my age now I fully understand, and it's really part of what I love about being an immigrant and being that bridge.
Yes. And you've immigrated back to Asia like me. And
Correct.
can I ask you about your identity? How did you come to embrace your bicultural identity, and how did that play a role in bridging?
I grew up, Mandarin, Chinese was my first language. And so I finished fourth grade in Taiwan. So I had a bit of Chinese language. And thanks to my grandmother and friends in Taiwan, I kept up my writing and reading, and I'm also the oldest. So being the interpreter, the for my parents, their English was not so great. And so I was always the one interpreting, translating for them. And so that's where my identity. I always knew I was Chinese. The first character I wrote, I had to learn to write, was my last name, which is
Mm.
Meng. It's we are direct descendants of Mencius,
Oh,
Mengzi.
wow.
Uh,
Wow.
so so I remember writing that character. I think I must have been 4 or 5, learning to write that character. So the identity was always Chinese first, and then at 10-year-old, we were immigrants, and I became a U.S. citizen at 16, um, having to take the naturalization test. So my identity, I've always feel myself as a Chinese American, and then later on, I think as I worked and, in the United States, I think the importance of right now, I see myself not only as a Chinese American, but also Asian American,
Mhm.
in terms of especially when I was working in New York, for two organization called Committee of 100, which was a Chinese American membership organization, founded by I.M. Pei and Yo-Yo Ma. And then I became a director of Museum of Chinese in America. And I think that kind of cemented my identity as Chinese American and also an Asian American. And it's something that I'm particularly proud of, and because of the contributions, especially when I was at Committee of 100, seeing the people that I was working with, people like I got to meet I.M. and work closely with him, and met Yo-Yo a few times. I mean, the contribution Chinese Americans have made, and then later on working in the Museum of Chinese America. So that is how I see my identity. I am a Chinese American and I have a US passport, and that's who I am.
Yeah. So what keeps you going? What motivates you to foster understanding between cultures?
What keeps me going right now, I think because of all the global tensions, is, I want to be the forces of good, be
Yeah.
the bridge builder. And there's a lot of negative around the world, and there's continue going to be. I mean, human nature, the way it is. So I want to be the positive force, and work with organizations like I have been. I started my career in government, in the state government. I was working for the state of Ohio, and my job, starting in my career, was promoting trade
Mm.
between U.S. And China, specifically state of Ohio. And in fact, Ohio has a distinction of having the first sister state province relationship with China, and
Oh,
that
wow.
was
Mm,
Hubei.
mm,
So I started my career working in this field,
mm,
on several governors' mission to
mm,
China as well as Southeast Asia.
mm.
And so I was in my government career, a state government career, for 9 years. So the importance of trade in terms of cementing ties. And then when I arrived in Hong Kong, I still was working for the state of Ohio for about 3 years, and then switched to the private sector. Private sector was really important, learning about the business side of thing, and then transitioning into the nonprofit, the NGO side of it, after obtaining my EMBA in Hong Kong,
Mm.
and then going back to New York, working for the NGO sector. But the organization I mentioned before, Committee of 100, as well as Museum of Chinese America, and now Asia Society in Hong Kong, I've now spent 20 years in the nonprofit sector, especially in the area about building bridges, and that is something that I'm particularly, I'm really proud of, and I have a feeling I'm going to be sticking with my NGO career for the foreseeable future.
And I admire all that you've done over the years. And you were at the Asia Society from the very beginning, 12 years ago.
Right.
What would you say are some of your proudest milestones in over the years?
Well, there's been so many. There's some of my proudest really has been, I basically hired, I think right now we have about 25 staff, and only one staff I have not hired in this 12
Oh, wow.
years. And growing the organization, because when we started, we literally opened our door February 9th, 2012.
Oh, wow.
And we had all of these wonderful venue, but having
Mm,
not done any of the arts and
mm,
cultural programming, we had done a lot of business and policy programming before, and that was the origin of Asia Society Hong Kong.
mm,
In fact, right now we do about 200 programs, pre-COVID, and I have a feeling this year we're going to meet the pre-COVID number, 200 programs. And 75% of the programs are in the arts and cultural space. And
mm,
that is something that we have done with my team this last 12 years, building up the arts and cultural space and seeing our staff leaving us, some of them going to other arts and cultural institution, whether it's West Kowloon, Daegun, or some of them back to US. Some of them are pursuing their career, pursuing their study in the United States in the museum sector. So that is something I'm particularly proud of, is really growing this team and, just building up the programming. And another area building up the team has been our interns. We've had tremendous interns this last 12 years. Some of them have come back and interned for us,
Yeah.
and many of them also have moved on to wonderful careers.
Mm.
So those are things that I'm particularly proud of, besides the programming that we built up.
Yeah, the impact is
Yes,
quite vast. And I know I've heard you have an amazing student program as well.
yes.
Yeah. So what does success mean to you personally, Alice?
I think success personally mean to me, for me, it hasn't been about financial, and it's about learning, continue to
Yes.
learn. I think maybe this goes back to my parents and the mentors I've had. It's I'm greedy for knowledge. I just feel like we never know enough, and I think this is the differential between us and other animals. We have this brain, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons I just have loved working for being part of Asia Society Hong Kong. It's about lifelong learning. The members are with us. We hear from speakers. We see artists. It's never ending, and that's what really motivates me, I think. And continue to build an organization that can kind of sustain um, the ability to learn. So
Yeah.
that's yes.
And what's your favorite part of the role? Because you wear 20 different hats or more. You're an ambassador. I mean, I saw you in action at that other event a month ago, I think. And yeah, I mean, you're so good at what you do. What is your favorite part of what you're doing now as president?
I have several. I mean, I think in my previous life, I must have been a producer of some sort. I love putting things together
Yeah,
and putting people together.
I could see that.
I think right now people talk about curation.
Yeah.
I'm not a art curator, but I like curating events and happenings.
Mm.
And I'm actually quite shy, and
Really?
um
Never
I
imagined.
remember, oh my God, I remember being afraid of speaking publicly, and I still to this day get nervous. But
Can't see
if I
it.
can curate and make things happen and see it come to life, for example, we did a 6 years ago for our sixth anniversary, we put together a chamber opera, our
Mm.
commission. And it was, the idea came to us from somebody who was in the opera world. We have a theater, we have facility here to present things. And he kind of said, you guys should think about commissioning or co-commissioning. And some of the stuff that we've done in this space have been some of my proudest, to see this chamber opera called Mila come to life. And Mila was a 4-person chamber opera sung in Tagalog, sung in Cantonese, and in English.
Wow. Wow.
And we presented it at Asia Society. The play, or the story, was written by Candace Chung, a Hong Kong
Mm.
playwright, and put together by a Hong Kong director, Chang Chu-hei. And it was just, and the artists came from New York, Manila, and Hong Kong. And to put that together, we did it about a year time, and we presented here at Asia Society 6 years ago. And
Mm.
then Hong Kong Art Development Council asked us to take it on tour, and we were able
Wow.
to take Mila on tour
Mm.
to New York as well as San Francisco. In fact, that happened right before COVID in December of 2019. And I'm really particular when I can put things together and help focus light on these talents. That curation is something that I really
Mm.
love doing.
Yeah.
But I also love seeing the faces of people coming in.
Yeah.
Because we had a Chinese restaurant for many years. I work in
Mm.
my parents' Chinese restaurant. I think the customer service side of things, seeing
Mm.
people come in
Mm.
and embracing,
Mm.
serving the public,
Yeah.
is also something that I particularly enjoy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you've incubated a lot and you're basically running a small country there, Alice, no?
Well, I wouldn't it's small but it's a small organization, and
Yeah.
I've had wonderful. I'm the I think number one. I'm the eighth executive director, and then now I'm the first
Mm,
president. My predecessor has been former diplomats,
mm,
U.S. diplomats. They've been business leaders, so
mm,
I really have stepped on the shoulder of these giants, and they created the brand.
mm,
And then they help fundraise to get us here. So
mm.
I feel there's a certain amount of responsibility to now run the center and kind of have a global influence as well as a local influence.
Yeah, which no doubt, I mean, you're a force and Asia Society Hong Kong Center is a cultural and educational force. I've no doubt you will reach all your goals, Alice. So who has inspired you the most in your life? And you could name more than one person, or maybe it's a what has inspired you, not a who.
Several people. I already mentioned my parents and my teachers, but I wouldn't be where I am without my mentors. And I feel very, very fortunate to have the mentors that I've had. And the mentors have mostly been my employers, people who have hired me. And my first mentor, Nora, I dedicated. In fact, I was able to fundraise
Yeah.
with my alma mater a scholarship or internship in her honor. And
Oh.
Nora was somebody
Mm,
that, she's also a Chinese American. She came to the
mm,
States, I think, probably in the 60s, more my parents' generation. And
mm.
when she hired me straight out of college, she was somebody that I always could ask for advice because I couldn't go to my parents because they're first generation
Yes.
Chinese American
Mm,
professionally.
mm,
They weren't able to give me the kind of advice. And so Nora was always somebody that I could pick up the phone, even though she
mm.
was only my boss for about 2 years. She continued. She's now
Oh, wow.
retired, living in the Bay Area. And
Precious.
whenever I'm in the Bay Area, I go and visit her. It's having that kind of mentor. And then later on in Hong Kong, in fact, I think I count Ronnie, our chairman, because I started working for him in 1995, first as his assistant and later on in investment in the company at Hang Lung. So he continued to be a mentor. And it's really important, I think, nowadays. I think in the past and even now, I think to have somebody that you can bounce idea or just pick up the phone and say, what do you think? So I think I have really been fortunate to
Mm,
have these type of people that I can count on and continue to
yes.
support me. Yes,
Yeah, absolutely agree. And Nora sounds so special. I mean, Ronnie is too, but Nora, to have someone to walk with you all your life, how rare is that, right?
correct. She's
Yeah.
like my big sister, even though she's older
Oh,
than my mom, and her kids
yeah.
have become friends, and I was
Mm,
able to now also kind of, if not mentor her granddaughter, at least
mm,
be that advice, that auntie that her granddaughter now can call, who her
yeah.
granddaughter is now working in New York,
Mm,
and so I think it's really important to have that um, connection and paying it forward.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. If we don't experience that kind of special mentoring, we can't pass it on, right?
Correct, correct.
Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to those who want to make a positive difference in the world, who want to be a force, like you?
I think my advice to people who want to make a positive impact is really just do it. It's almost like that
Yeah.
that commercial, that punchline or that tagline. Just do it. I think in other ways you can do it is learning from others,
Mm,
volunteering,
yeah.
be involved with organizations whose value you believe in, whether it's organizations or companies or people. I think believing in your values and then following through with them. I think sometimes young people these days, or even young people when I was growing up, it's very easy to be swayed it, but what do you believe in? And then following that voice and finding people who champion you or champion that voice And, I find that's how I've achieved or, continue to learn. It's learning from people. But that voice and that value, again, goes back to my parents. My parents always believe in the value of education. They, when we were growing up, it was not about what we had, but it was learning. And that's one of the reasons we moved to the United States when we did, because my parents felt that in the United States I could get the kind of education, also as a Chinese girl, and so I think education was always part of my family's value. And so I think believe in your values and then find people, an organization who shares it, and then
Yeah.
just go for it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's, yeah, wise words. Thank you. The alignment, right? We need
Correct.
to be aligned so that what's in our heart or in our vision, mission aligns with, the people we work with. And your parents sound exactly like mine. We immigrated to Vancouver in the 70s. So similar focus on education and yeah. And I remember working for my mom, as a 12-year-old.
Right.
I joke and I say I was child labor.
Well, that's it. My brother, sister, we all
Yeah,
were child laborers, but
yeah,
I think it also taught us the value of work, and
absolutely.
seeing how hard our parents worked.
Mhm,
I think I don't take work for
mhm,
granted, and I don't take
mhm.
them for granted. And
Yes,
so,
yes.
it's
Mm,
here in Hong Kong that you mentioned that I
mm.
met people like you and myself. And a lot of the diaspora, especially the Asian diaspora, how much the journey, our parents' journey, have shaped us. And
Yes, yes.
and then yeah, and
Mhm.
how we kind of come back to Asia,
Yeah.
this reverse journey, but still pursuing the same dreams.
Yeah.
And I met Australian. Chinese or Australian Koreans, and I
Mm,
have a very good friend who's from New Zealand, who's from Korea.
mhm,
She talks about that, her parents'
mm,
experience
mm.
growing up Korean in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I think that it's that in Hong Kong we see that a lot, and I find that we all
Mm.
should treasure that kind of uh I don't know, that
It's a
experience.
bond. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's a
bond, isn't
bond. Yeah,
it?
it is a
Yeah.
bond. And I think, and that's why I want to bring up the movie. I'm sure you've seen the one that kind of got nominated this year,
Oh, yes.
the Korean
Yes.
movie,
Yes. Oh, what's it called?
uh,
Yeah.
Past Lives.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it's kind of I would never seen in
Mm,
all the time of growing up in the States for the 50 years to see a movie
mm,
about our experience, that past lives.
mm,
Seeing that movie on the plane a couple of months ago was kind of like, wow,
mm.
that is it hit a core with me, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, it's really good to see that our stories are being told and
Mhm,
shared.
mhm. And more to come. More to
I
come.
I know there is,
Right?
and we have
Yes.
talents right
Yes.
now because
Mm,
our parents usually do
mm,
not want us to go into these fields, but now I would love seeing these young people.
mm.
They are writers, they're
Yes.
producers, they
Yes.
are they are
Mm,
pursuing their dreams, and so I'm
mm,
really happy to see
mm.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to circle back to what you said about immigrating back to Asia, which is yeah, our bond, my bond with you and
Yes,
the
yes,
bond we have with other diasporic Asians who come back, who
correct.
return to the motherland.
Yes.
What has that been like for you, Alice? Like, what has been like the biggest learning and then the biggest challenge of immigrating back? And did that help with your identity? Sorry, there are three questions, but you could just answer whatever you want to.
Well, it did help with the identity. Being, going back to what I said about being a Chinese
Yeah.
American, when I arrived here in 1992 in Hong Kong, I was very much an Ohioan because I wasn't just an
Oh,
American,
oh,
because I was living and I had gone to school in Ohio. Ohio has what, 11 million people in the whole state, and Hong Kong is more like a New York on steroid, right? And so that adjustment in the beginning was really hard from in the beginning because also, I look Chinese, I don't speak Cantonese. The expectations of people, my Cantonese friends or Hong Kong friends, and remember 92, there weren't that many Mandarin speakers like now.
True.
And now there's a different expectation. But every time I've 92, I think it took a while to adjust. But then when I started working in a company that had all my colleagues were all from Hong Kong, and I was again the non I didn't speak Cantonese, but they were wonderful colleagues. I learned a lot from them um, about Hong Kong, and also then finding the commonality. It goes back to your family, your parents. They have the same bonds or issues that I have with my parents. And so that reverse migration, in the beginning, although it was hard, also made me realize how similar we are. We
Mm-hmm.
also have aging parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have sibling rivalries. We have all the issues, and Hong Kong became more home after '95 when I worked in a Chinese company, and then when I moved back to the States in 2003, right before SARS. I did not know SARS was going to happen. The job opportunity, that transition back to New York was also difficult, and then but I liked New York. I didn't love New York. I had a great experience learning in New York, but I missed Hong Kong. So,
Yeah.
so when I had an opportunity in 2011 to come back to Hong Kong, even though I didn't have a job, I wanted to come back to Hong Kong for the next phase of my career. And this time coming back was a lot easier. Even though I didn't have a job, I already have friends and network, including my EMBA network, which I'm very particularly proud of. I was the inaugural class of this Kellogg HKUST. So coming back the second time was a lot easier than the 92, and I have enjoyed it ever since.
Yeah, no, I've heard from friends who moved back to the US after spending time, a significant amount of time in China or Hong Kong, that it takes 2 years to feel at
Correct.
home and vice versa, right? So,
Correct.
yeah. And are you surprised you're still here after all these years? This is your home, Alice. This is
Well,
really your home.
I mean, in fact, I keep track of my numbers. I think now I'm tipping over. I've been in Asia, in Hong Kong longer than I have in the United States. In the beginning was
Yeah,
50-50, but
yeah.
right now I think it's maybe 60-40.
Mm,
It is home, but my mom, my sibling are still in the US. And I go back a couple times a year. I vote in the United States. I vote
yeah.
so I'm still the Chinese American that I
Mm,
came in '92. I'm still very proud of my roots, but also where I my parents took us. So I have um, connections in both,
mm.
and that's in both the U.S. and Asia and Hong Kong. And that's one of the reasons I think what I do now is more important than ever. What Asia Society Hong
Yes,
Kong's mission, we
yes.
need to um, foster that understanding, continue to build that understanding.
Mm.
I always get nervous when I hear about talk of war, and
Yes.
I need to talk about peace, and
Mm,
and peace in a coherent way.
mhm.
We need to kind of be creative, and we need to think positively, and how can we make sure that um, what my the reason I go back to my father is he left China in 1949 as a teenager. To this day,
Wow.
we don't know exactly how old he was when he arrived in Taiwan. And what he went through in '49 was one of the reasons we immigrated to the States in the
Yeah,
'70s.
yeah,
So I really would love to see that, there is no '49 repeating.
yeah.
So it's really important that we continue to foster peace. And
Yes.
there's just too many conflict right now. You just see what's happening in Europe, in the Middle East. And
Mhm.
we have to promote
Yeah.
understanding,
Yes, I resonate. My family has been impacted negatively by the Korean War, loss of
right?
life, and I absolutely resonate. And it breaks my heart with what's happening in
Right,
Ukraine and so on and so forth.
right.
So Alice, one more question about Hong Kong.
Sure.
That, people have been saying, Hong Kong is a sinking ship and so many people have left. Um, how is Hong Kong strategic to the world? Because I know that you're passionate about this topic.
I think, well, what you said about, what everybody's saying now, I heard in 1995 and 96. And I remember Fortune magazine had a cover story. In fact, I think I still have that magazine. I carry, it's part, I
Oh,
collect. And that
yeah.
magazine, that cover story was the death of Hong Kong. And I
Oh,
remember 95, 96. That you can find that cover. It was quite well known. Uh, and and I've heard that over and over again. And I've also heard that about the United States as well, or when I was growing up in Ohio, the end of, that Midwest, the Rust Belt and all of that. Um, I believe in rejuvenation. I believe, and this is one of the reasons I came back to Hong Kong in 12 years ago, or over 12 years ago. Um, the strategic role of Hong Kong is that we're both East and West.
mm,
um, you cannot deny Hong Kong's colonial roots. You've been to our office
yeah.
this is in
Gorgeous.
Admiralty. We
Yeah.
are part of this is former Explosive magazine. The government owns the land. They are a landlord, and we fixed it up. And it was over 150 years ago. These sites that was made for the purpose of war. It was storing ammunition. So we've turned it into a place about education and promoting learning and understanding. So I really do believe Hong Kong, the best days ahead. And the reason I believe that is talent. I
Mm,
have seen Hong Kong talent, uh, continue to see them. I see them in our interns. I see them in the young people that come to work for us. And there's one particular young person who just had his music premiere at the New York Phil a couple of days ago for his name is Elliot Leon. Elliot is a
oh, really?
composer.
Yes, I know
Elliot
him.
is 27.
Yeah.
And Elliot is the music he's composed. He's composed movie for Chinese blockbusters, and he's also composed for the Hong Kong Philharmonic. We co-commissioned with Hong Kong Phil last year, the Metaverse Symphony with Elliot. And
Mhm.
if you have people like Elliot, and he's just one of them. I mean, I've seen artists here in Hong Kong. We've done several group shows of Hong Kong artists called Next Act was one. And that's what makes me believe Hong Kong's best days ahead.
Mm,
Yes, there are issues. And I am not going to gloss it over. I mean, there
yeah.
are tensions. But I do believe these, not just Hong Kong, but Asia. And another thing that Hong Kong has is really that welcoming spirit. There's just something about Hong Kong's
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
And you're here, I'm here. I have
Yes.
so many of my friends who are the diaspora, the Asian diaspora, and I love working here. I love having been here now on and off 20 plus years. There are issues that I think the government and the business community and the community in general, we have to address. Those issues, you cannot wish them away. But I find that whenever there is challenge, Hong Kong rise up. I remember visiting Hong Kong after SARS, and this was 2000, after 2003. And Hong Kong people came together, very much like New York. When I moved to New York, it was a year and a half, 2 years
Mm,
after 9/11. I have never seen New York more New Yorkers nicer to
yes.
each other and more tighter. So I think when it comes to adversity, um, Hong Kong gets it, and it will come back. And it's not the end of Hong Kong. I think it's a new beginning for Hong Kong. And I just right now I'm very optimistic because I see it in the young people that
Mm,
I've been in touch with. And so that's why I'm positive about Hong
yeah.
Kong.
Yeah. I resonate with that. The Lion Rock spirit, Hong
Yes,
Kong is not dead, but roaring back. Yeah, I have to 100% agree. And the networking here is next level. I've never
correct,
experienced that in any other city where people are just so open and willing to meet. And
correct.
yeah,
And
so yeah, go ahead.
and compared to New York, I think this is where I was really surprised at how um, New York it's a global city, but it's not there's so many layers of New York, and I find that here in Hong Kong, I think because it's a very dynamic city, it's very accessible, and
Mm,
you know, our chairman, our members, you come to a program, you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
It could be chairman, CEO, and
Yeah.
everybody, and everybody is very open. And I'm particularly
Yes.
proud of our President Circle members. I look forward to coming to work every day because of the
Oh.
membership we have, because of the openness. And I think that
Mm.
is what's going to get Hong Kong through
Yeah.
this difficult time, is really
Mm.
that accessibility and that openness.
Yeah, no, thank you for your inspiring words, Alice. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, my advice to my younger self was also, I was so insecure, my younger self. I was so doubtful of, I mean, as an immigrant, as an Asian, as a woman, I remember I was scared of everything. And my advice to my younger self is be brave. Um, Looking now that I've gone through this journey, it's kind of like, wow, what was I afraid of? Um, my parents gave me a wonderful opportunity. I had great education. Just be brave and believe in yourself. Find people to help you, and help others. So that would be the advice I give my younger self. Be brave
Yeah,
and move
yeah,
move on. Yes.
love it. I remember I was in my late 20s when someone told me everyone's insecure at those networking events, and I was like, oh, really? That was such a revelation. And
Right. Right.
yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, being courageous doesn't mean we don't have fear, but that
Right.
we push through, right?
Right.
So what other Asia Society Hong Kong Center events do you have that's coming up that you want to share quickly with us?
Well, I have two particular events that's happening in March that I really want to share. And one of them is we are, in fact, concluding a negotiation, or we are going to be bringing the Verbier Festival Orchestra to Hong Kong. They are
Wow.
one of the best festival. In fact, the musician from that they're touring China in March, and they're
Mm.
March and April, I believe, and their first stop will be Hong Kong, and Asia Society Hong Kong will be hosting them. So stay tuned.
Oh,
There will be concerts, dates announced in March, two concerts. I think it's going to be 24th and 25th, right the weekend, right before our Basel. So that is something that we're really, really excited about, to be working with this fantastic world-class organization to bring these musicians here. Second thing
excellent.
that I'm really, really excited about also happens around then, around March 23rd, we will open our 42nd exhibition. And it's an artist that I've long admired, who is no longer with us. And here in Asia, they may not know him as well, but in Cuba, where he was born, and we're in the
Mm.
US and Europe, and Latin America, he's very well known. And the artist is called Wilfredo Lam. Wilfredo Lam's story is fascinating in that his father immigrated, migrated. They to um, Cuba, I think in the late 1800s, and Wilfredo was born in Cuba. He's half Chinese and half Cuba. His parents, I'd say, his mother is from Cuba, and he is a contemporary of Picasso. In fact, they knew each
Wow.
other. They were friends. They influenced
Amazing.
each other's work, and he lived to be probably he died in Paris. His
Mm.
children, we're working with the two sons to bring his this Wilfredo Lamb homecoming exhibition to Asia Society Hong Kong, and we are really, really, really excited about this exhibition to kind of introduce an artist like that, this world-class artist that may not be as well known here in Asia, but he was definitely very well known the rest of the
Mm.
world. And so that's why we're called the show Homecoming. So that will be a very
Oh,
exciting show. I
exciting.
hope to see you there. It's going to last till end of May.
Oh, wow. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Alice. It's just been so motivational, and your insights have been very, very good. So thank you so much, Alice, for this heartfelt conversation. Everyone who's watching, feel free to add Alice, Alice Mong on LinkedIn. Follow the Hong Kong Asia Society Center. I think that's the full name.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, and also their website for their upcoming events. Thank you so much for joining us. Alice is a mover and a shaker. She's also very humble too. And it was such a pleasure, Alice, to have you on the show, and hope to have you on again when you have new programs and exciting new developments.
Thank you, Sylvia. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.